Before this video starts, when I recorded this, I was pretty just kind of pissed off because I was thinking about the math in my own head. And I was like, wait, that's stupid. I mean in no way to call out specific cores or anything like that, because at the end of the day, the core has to do what the core has to do to stay alive and to be able to function on tour. That's not really their fault, but I think it's just a way to call out, like, say, hey, this is an even bigger issue than sometimes I think we give credit for, because obviously, yes, it's the biggest issue, but how big are we really portraying it? Like, yes, it's expensive and that sucks, but it's not stopping tons of people from going on tour yet. But I think it's getting to that point, seriously, where even I got priced out my age out year. And that's why this comes close to home, because I just couldn't afford to go on tour. It sucks. My age out year. So that kind of thing, that's just what I wanted to talk about, and I'll let you guys get right into the video. Hey, it's been a while. I've been busy or lazy and not making a lot of videos or scripts, but there is one thing that I have on my mind right now that everybody already knows, but I want to put it in numbers so that we see kind of how ridiculous this number is. So yes, I have a whiteboard here. I'm going to have a calculator, I have a marker, and we're going to get right down and dirty with, let's look at these tour fees and see why it's pretty much out of the question for most high schoolers that are trying to raise their own money for tour. We have $5,000 in tour fees. States have different minimum wages. So I'm going to go with the easiest option and just say you're making $10 an hour, and we're not even going to take out taxes. That's it. You're making $10 an hour straight. If it's, some states you have a little bit more. Most states where you're making that more, like much more money, you're getting that much more money taken out anyways. So $10 an hour is going to be our minimum wage for the average high school student. I started marching when I was a sophomore in high school, and the wage then was $10.50, but my tour fees were also almost $1,500 less than this. So, we're just going to go with $10 an hour. So if you're working $10 an hour, it's going to take you 500 hours to save up every last penny to make that $5,000. So 500 hours. And you're going to school. So obviously, if you're a high school student going to school, there's a limit on how long you can work, especially in certain states where you have a lot more laws than others. I'm going to use the California, or at least my district's laws that we have out here for when I was a high school student. You could work 4 hours a day on weekdays, which was a school day, and you could work 8 hours a day on a weekend. That gives you, if you're working five days a week, the maximum amount of hours that you're going to be working is going to be 28 hours a day. 28 hours a week. So if you're working 28 hours per week, I'm writing sideways, so you're going to have to give me some slack here. How long is it going to take you to get to that 500-hour mark? Well, let's do the math. I got my handy-dandy calculator right here, and we get 18 weeks. So it's going to take you 18 weeks. Oh, there goes one of that. There goes that top. 18 weeks of saving every last dime to make those tour fees. Okay, so obviously this equation does not include parents helping you out. You know why? It's because not everybody has parents that can pay your tour fees. And that's the biggest issue that a lot of people have been talking about. Oh, it's a rich kid sport. So let's, continue doing this and see how much is the difference between a rich person who has parents to pay for their own tour fees and somebody who's scraping by and has to do everything themselves. So 18 weeks, that is 4.5 months. You got to work 4.5 months, scraping every single penny to make that $5,000. That's working nonstop. 4.5 months to make $5,000. And this gets even harder when you're going to college, because yes, when you're in college, you can make a little bit more money. You don't really have the same hourly restrictions, but if you're going to college, you're paying for college. You have even more hourly restrictions probably, since you have to study harder. That number becomes a lot bigger when you can work less hours, right? This is working the maximum amount per week if you're a high school student, 4.5 months. So let's say the situation, you're going for your average nearby core. You're not really going to those top cores where they start spring training even earlier. That means you're probably going to have your audition in December. Let's say you get a contract in December, and then you're like, boom, I got to start working to make some money for this tour. That's January, right? Ignore my horrible handwriting. I'm writing sideways. February, March, April, May, halfway through May. Halfway through May, right? During school, after you've figured out that you're marching a season of tour, and then you'll probably move in like right at the beginning of June. June, that's move-ins. That's move-ins right there. So if you started working right when you knew you got a contract, like right after that in January, it's gonna take you January, February, March, April, then half of May, and then you move in June, like literally the next month. Who can do all of that, right? What average high school student is working 28 hours a week during school to then work for 4.5 months straight, 28 hours a week, then just to move in 2 weeks after you finish making that money, just for tour, right? That's just to pay off your tour fees. Okay, let's say you are able to do that. Then you go on tour with only paying for your tour fees and no money saved up, right? But then so we can't just factor that. We have to factor in other stuff. Okay, how much money you're taking on tour realistically? You know, back when I marched my rookie year, $300 was probably enough to bring with me, because you could go and grab a meal for like $5 and be chilling. It ain't like that anymore, you know, especially on a free day where you gotta usually pay for at least 2 out of your 3 meals, if not all 3. How you doing that with no savings, right? You want to starve yourself on a free day? We're not going to do that. So let's, I'm going to be very conservative with this number of giving you $500 of tour money, right? That's your tour money. That's paying for extra food on a free day, maybe a travel day where they're not really going to feed you meals on a bus, or you're paying for your laundry. You're paying for a lot of other stuff. That's your extra $500, right? And we're going to add this back in to this little equation that we got going on here, right? I'm going to put a little money sign right there. Okay, $500 for just bringing on tour. Now we got to factor in something else. You got to buy stuff before you go on tour, right? You got to have a suitcase. That's an extra money. You got to have other stuff that you got to purchase beforehand, bringing on, your medical supplies, bringing on certain clothes. I didn't have all the clothes. I didn't just own all of the clothes that I brought on tour. Yeah, some of them I did, but not all of them. All right, so let's be even more conservative because you got to bring a suitcase with you, right? All right, $300 for just prepping for tour. $300. Oh my God, I forgot how to write a 3. Okay, adding on extra $300 for prepping for tour. So tour fees, straight up just paying to go on tour, money to actually exist while you're on tour, and money to prepare for going on tour, right? All right, is there anything else that we need to kind of factor in? How about travel to camps? We'll give you some slack. You had a friend that was with you that was a little bit more better off, and they were able to pretty much pay your way to get to each of your camps. Well, now some corps have camp fees, like an extra $150 a camp. So now we got to add that on to January, right? Because you got a January camp, February, March, April, and May. Let's say it's only $100 of camp fees. That's an extra $500 right there in camp fees. That's the worst 500 that I've ever written. I'm sorry. So now let's add on another $500 right here, right? Okay, I think I'm done adding extra money right there. We just added an extra $1,300 right there in just, thinking about realistically how we're going to do this. So that ruins this whole thing. So now that we've added this all together, $6,300. Some corps, that's not even their tour fee. That's not even their tour fee right there. $6,300. You're not going on tour with that much money, right? But we're going to be conservative and say that $6,300 is the amount that you need to make to be able to go on a drum corps tour. All right, let's get rid of this right here. Let's do that math. $6,300. That's now the actual amount that we need to make before we go on tour. That's definitely going to screw up this, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Now you need to work 630 hours to be able to save that much money, right? All right, 630 hours. How many hours can we work to a week? That's still 28. That doesn't change. So 630 divided by 28. All right, we got 23 weeks. Of work. That's 6 months, pretty much. Almost 6 months of work. Okay. January, February, March, April, May. Oops, that's only 5 months. Now we need to work during move-ins. This is where the problem arises. For like the average person that can't pay for their whole tour by themselves, as a high school student, obviously, we're kind of expecting your parents to help you in the modern day and age, but not everybody can. How many people are we locking out of being able to go on tour who have the talent, who have the ability and the mental fortitude to be able to march a season and do what honestly they deserve to do by making it in, with that number right there, who can't work 6 months because the tour, by then you're already halfway through tour. That's the 4th week of June that you can move in. What corps is moving in the 4th week of June? Some corps even move in May. So how are we doing that? And I think that's the only reason that I wanted to make this video. And yes, it was a little messy. I didn't have it as extremely planned out, but that's the point, because who has it extremely planned out? Yes, I know that I want to audition as a high school student. I don't know if I'm going to make it in. So why would I start working beforehand, right? Maybe I'm just doing it because my friend let me know 2 weeks beforehand and invited me to go, and then I went. This is the situation that we're putting members in. And not we, I'm just saying drum corps in general. But this is the big talking point right here. How are people doing that? They're not. We're locking out so many people with this number. So I think I'm just going to leave it at that and let you think about that. And I want you guys to comment what you think about this situation. It needs to change. It's not sustainable and it's not viable at all. See ya.